understandingspecialeducation.com. This is a great resource that explains things really well. Not sure who puts it out, but they do a good job. So here we go. Adapted Physical Education, or APE. This is specially designed physical education, and it's done to fit the needs of students with disabilities. So using accommodations designed to fit the needs of students who require developmental or corrective instruction in PE. So this is typically students with physical or neurological disabilities who need extra help with moving around and exercising. Accommodations, this is a really big one. These are changes that allow a person with a disability to fully participate in an activity. Examples include extended time, different test format, and alterations to a classroom. So if you want your child to be in an inclusive setting, you're going to want to try to get as many of these supplementary aids and services or accommodations into their IEP as possible. So reading up on what accommodations are is probably a pretty good idea, because those are the pieces of the IEP that are going to allow your child to stay in the general ed setting with their peers as much as possible. All right, our next one is ADD and ADHD, attention deficit disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder are medical conditions characterized by a child's inability to focus while possessing impulsivity, fidgeting, and inattention. So this is just a general term, and this is kind of dated, so we're going to skip most of these other diagnostic terms because we talk about those later. So assessment or evaluation. Assessments and evaluations are two different things. An assessment is the tests and inventories and measures that are given to determine if your child has a disability, and evaluation is the process of looking at all of those things, and this leads up to an IEP where the question is, does your child have a disability? They're given assessments, and then those assessments are gathered together and the whole child is evaluated. So those tests, those assessments, tests, inventories, and then how they do in school, how they do at home, and what other things they might have going on. So assessment and evaluation are two big ones, but they're different things. This next one, behavior intervention plan, special education term used to describe the written plan used to address problem behaviors that includes positive behavioral intervention strategies and support. May include program modifications and supplementary aids and services. So the behavior intervention plan comes after a functional behavior assessment, and if your child has behavioral problems in school, you should make sure they have one of these and that it's being followed. So the next one is Common Core Standards. These are just national educational standards. They're kind of controversial, but it's just nationwide education standards. So complaint procedure, hopefully you don't have to do one of these or go through this, but it's a formal complaint filed with the county or state board of education if a district violates a legal duty or fails to follow a requirement under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So this is what you do when the school fails to follow an IEP or fails to follow the law in general. And I hope you never have to do one of these. So it's a complaint that goes to the next level, to the district usually itself, and then the next level up. And it's for things that are violated, when kids don't get their minutes. There's a wide range of things you complain for, and we'll talk about that later on. Cumulative file is basically all the report cards and everything from a child's school career, and evaluations, just everything, every record that you could imagine should be in there. We're not talking about every piece of homework they ever did, but if they get in trouble, IEPs, all the different things, forms that accompany them through their school career. All right, due process is a special education term used to describe the process where parents may disagree with the program recommendations of the school district. The notice must be given within 30 days. IDEA provides two methods of resolving disputes: mediation or a fair hearing. So, due process, there's two types of it. There's going to a mediation, which is a third party tries to fix the disagreement, or a hearing, which is a legal process. So due process is used for the disagreements that happen on IEPs and evaluations. Early intervention is programs for developmentally delayed infants and toddlers through 35 months of age, designed to help prevent problems as the child matures. So this is birth to 3. And extended school year services. An extended school year is a component of special education services for students with unique needs who require services in excess of the regular academic year. Extended year often refers to summer school. So this is summer school, special education that goes year-round. So free appropriate public education. Special education and related services are provided at public expense without charge to the parent. So we pay taxes to our school system, and our school system should be giving those children a free, appropriate public education. So appropriate means, free means that the parents don't have to pay anything for it other than their taxes. Appropriate means that it's the right thing for that child, disability, needs related, and public education, so at a public school. A functional behavioral assessment is a problem-solving process for addressing inappropriate behavior. So what a functional behavior assessment is we're looking for what is the behavior. So we're going to define the behavior, figure out when it happens, and then from there we'll gather information on the behavior or the behaviors, and then from there we'll make a behavior intervention plan. So the FBA is, what are these behaviors, when are they happening, and the behavior intervention plan is, what do we do when these behaviors happen. So home and hospital instruction is students with verified medical conditions which prevent them from attending school may receive services on a temporary basis in the home or hospital with a physician's referral. So this is that students will get schooling when they're sick and recovering from something at home or when they're in the hospital. So this can also be addressed with a 504 plan. For a student that doesn't need help most of the time, a 504 plan would probably be the way to get home and hospital care. So inclusion is a big term within special education. I'm going to read their definition and then just talk about it briefly. So inclusion is a term used to describe services that place students with disabilities in general education classrooms with appropriate support services. Students may receive instruction from both a general education teacher and a special education teacher. So inclusion goes big in part with something called the least restrictive environment, and students need to be in a place where they have as much freedom as possible. And that might mean that they're getting in trouble a little bit and they're falling behind a little bit. And that's okay. Students need to be trying pretty hard, and they need to be as close to their peers as is possible. And we need to try this with everybody. And it may look different it's going to look different for each kid, and there's going to be disagreement and discussion on it. But when we have disagreement and discussion on it, it means that we're really thinking about it and we're really processing it as an IEP team. So it runs on a continuum from a segregated setting like a resource room all the way to with your peers and just getting really small supports. So kids are going to end up somewhere on that continuum, and finding the right level of inclusion for them is what we're going for. But they should be trying hard. They should be at the edge of their comfort level, and they should be as close to their peers as possible. And that's what it really means to think inclusively. Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 2004. The original legislation was written in 1975, guaranteeing students with disabilities a free and appropriate public education and the right to be educated with their non-disabled peers. Congress has reauthorized this federal law. The most recent revision occurred in 2004. So all the federal law that we follow in regards to special education, almost all the law comes from the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 2004. Just all the different rights, the procedural safeguards, how we're trying to have parents be an equal partner, reevaluations every 3 years, IEPs every year. These are all different pieces of IDEA 2004. So, individualized education plan meeting, special education term outlined by IDEA to define the written document that states the disabled child's goals, objectives, and services for students receiving special education. That's what we're doing. That's what we're working on, so I'm sure you know this one. It's the annual document that we work on to say where a child's at and what they're getting in special ed. So the Independent Educational Evaluation, or the IEE, is so a school district is required by law to conduct assessments for students who may be eligible for special education. If the parent disagrees with the results of a school district's evaluation conducted on their child, they have the right to request an independent educational evaluation. The district must provide parents with information about how to obtain an IEE. An independent educational evaluation means an evaluation conducted by a qualified examiner who is not employed by the school district. Public expense means that the school district pays for the full cost of the evaluation and that it is provided at no cost to the parent. So this is when you're in an evaluation or a reevaluation and you do not agree with the label that your child is given. So the disability label is what they get services for. So for instance, autism, sight impaired, hearing impaired, emotional behavior disorders. Those are all labels. There's 18 of them, I believe, right now. So, but the IEE is you get your child assessed by somebody who is not employed by the school district. And I hope that you never have to do this. Listeners out there who are following along, I hope you never have to do this. But this is something that people have to request when the school district doesn't do their full workload of figuring out that disability. An individualized education program team, term used to describe the committee of parents, teachers, administrators, and school personnel that provide services to the student. The committee may also include medical professional and other relevant parties. The team reviews assessment results, determines goals and objectives, and program placement for the child needing services. So the IEP team is the people who you are meeting with. And it is supposed to be a team, and you are supposed to be an equal partner on that team. Individualized transition plan. So this is transition planning. We'll talk about later. This plan starts at age 14 and addresses areas of post-school activities, post-secondary education, employment, community experiences, and daily living skills. This is a part of the IEP, and it's one of our later modules. The least restrictive environment is the placement of a special needs student in a manner promoting the maximum possible interaction with the general school population. Placement options are offered on a continuum regarding classroom with no support services, regular classroom with support services, designated instruction services, special day classes, and private education programs. So this is, like we were talking about in inclusion, this is that place where we try to get every child to the place where they'll be successful and getting what they need, and they'll have to be trying hard, and we try to make sure that they're with their peers as much as possible. Local education agency, this basically just means the school district. Manifestation determination. Within 10 school days of any decision to change the placement of a child with a disability because of violation of the school code, the IEP team must review all relevant information in the student's file to determine if the conduct in question was caused by the child's disability or if the conduct was a direct result of the school district's failure to implement the child's IEP. So this typically happens with expulsions. It's after 10 days of suspension. Manifestation determination hearing will happen, where the question that we ask is, did the school district follow the IEP, and is this child's expulsion due to being caused by their disability? So that's a hearing. I hope everybody doesn't have to do one of those. Occupational therapists is one of our related service providers. They provide consultation and support to staff to improve a student's educational performance related to fine motor, gross motor, and sensory integration development. So occupational therapists help students write, they help students move around the building, and a number of different things related to daily living skills. So yeah. Okay, parent consent is a special education term used by IDEA that states you have been fully informed in your native language or other mode of communication of all the information about the action for which you are giving consent, and that you understand and agree in writing to all that action. So what it's basically saying is that you have to give your consent for an IEP to be implemented, for an evaluation to be adopted or used. You have the right to consent or not consent to that happening. And very often it takes the form of, like, you return a letter that you get mailed, or you sign something at the end of an IEP meeting. This is you giving consent. And it means they told you in your native language, in sign language, whatever different language, whatever communication style, and you agree to your child's IEP evaluation, all that being put in place. Residential and private placements. Part B of IDEA does not require a school district to pay for the cost of education for your child at a private school or facility if the school district made free appropriate public education available to your child and you chose to place your child in a private placement. So there's a lot going on with residential and private placements. And it's not, a lot of times it ends up not really being an IEP thing. Resource Specialist Program is a term used to describe a program that provides instruction, materials, and support services to students with identified disabilities who are assigned to a general education classroom for more than 50% of the school day. This is a way to do inclusion. It's a framework for that, and it's very common in a lot of places. I know California does a lot of RSP stuff. So, but when you see RSP on that IEP, make sure to ask them what they're doing. It's just a good thing that they explain what they're doing and how much time your child does have with the teacher. So a school psychologist is, they assist in the identification of intellectual, social, and emotional needs of students. They provide the consultation and support to families and staff regarding behavior and conditions related to learning. They plan programs to meet the special needs of children and often serve as a facilitator during the IEP meetings. So school psychologists do most of the labeling of students. They run and make sure the assessments are running well, and they're usually the boss when it comes to the meetings. So vision specialists, if your child needs vision help, it's a special education teacher usually who provides consultation and support to staff and direct instructional support to students with visual impairments. They provide functional vision assessments and curriculum modifications, including Braille, large type, and oral media. And that's it. We'll stop there.